Why do you love being in front of the camera?
I think really I became an actress and a vlogger because I'm getting the attention I didn't get when I was a kid, and I knew I deserved it. I knew I had a lot to say, and I could say it in a really cute way. And I knew right away that I was different. First of all, because that's what they told me. My mother said, you know, in Yiddish it was "du bist mishige," which translates to "you're going to die alone."
Oh, gosh.
No one will ever think you're normal. Like she'd say, "You're not normal," and I'm not. Uh-oh, not normal. People don't have friends, they have cats. I mean, lots of them. Not that I'm against cats. I love cats, dogs, everything, but I want to be friends with humans. I want to be able to work and have a job. So I have to prove that I'm not crazy, I'm normal. Well, I saw what my mother and father paid attention to. The television. So as a kid, I knew just be on TV, people will watch you. Plus, people on television, especially if they were pretty, had great credibility. And, you know, after being told you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy, and in Yiddish, which makes it a lot worse, your whole life, you want to prove you're normal. And being on TV makes people, even crazy people, look less crazy. And I knew I could express my opinions, and there I had the audience. So it was just a matter of like, how was I going to be on TV to express who I was, especially since I was a terrible auditioner. I really sucked. I would have been a huge star if I were able to not lose my mind in every single audition that I had a line in. It was funny, I could always get the parts when I didn't have lines. That was easy. But there was something that just said, do it right, baby. Just, you got to do it right. And I think I was trying to audition the way I thought that the person who would actually get the part would do it, which takes all the creativity, all the put yourself into it, out of it. And I was just trying to and I was so insecure. I was almost like I start every audition with, "I'm sorry, can I start over?" And let me just let you go back to your work casting the real people, and I'll go back to driving back home out of the valley. And when I came to LA, I was 21 from Montreal. My car did not have air conditioning. And so most of the auditions were in the valley, and I would schwitz. And I kept failing at auditions, and I was working at the IHOP because, you know, working on my acting skills, like acting like I didn't want to kill myself at the cash register. I couldn't even make change. Someone would give me a 20, I'd stand there and cry. You know, it's like horrible. But I went through all that because I knew one day I would succeed if I just didn't give up. I was reading like Napoleon Hill and all these like self-help books, because as an actress, you get rejected for a living. And then unfortunately, I was Me Too'd into a state of depression that I'm still recovering from, because every once in a while some horrible thing will happen, showbiz related, man related, and the trauma just comes back. You know, and so I have to deal with that daily too. So I had a lot of very negative experiences when I came here. Not just losing my self-respect. I mean, I came here to be on a TV show. My parents bought me a car where we were living in Montreal, and I said, thanks. And I drove south, made a right at Ohio, and then just came right out here because I was going to be on this show. And it turned out the show happened, but without me. And so I saw it all happening. The producer apologized, and I got drunk. And so instead of getting into show business, I got into hard drugs. And I got sober December 28th, 1982, but who's counting? And so I've been alcohol free, and it was a journey back to be the reason you drove here, Hanala.
If you were to write a letter to yourself, On that drive from Montreal to Ohio, then to California, what would the first paragraph of that letter be?
I would say, turn around because Montreal is about to become Hollywood. You don't have to go anywhere. And then I would say, but knowing you, you really want a tan and you want your hair to look better because Montreal is very humid. A lot of people don't realize it's an island in a river, a volcano really. Very, very humid. We didn't have air conditioning. I learned to suffer. I learned to have a lot of heartbreaks in Montreal. So I would say, I know you want to get out of Montreal. I know you really, 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 really want to go. But I don't think you're ready. You're too sensitive. And the show's not going to happen. Of course, she'd drive here anyway.
Even if you had read that letter? If someone had written that, you would still have driven?
Well, I think that I had a real passion to do this, and I would. I don't think that I could have understood possibly how I wasn't capable of handling what was going to happen. I guess I would have had to tell her, you know, you're gonna be fed some drugs, and then you're going to wake up with a naked man on top of you. And you're going to make it a joke, like, what is this naked man doing on top of me? You know, like, I can't figure this out. But it's not a joke. It will affect you forever. And it will affect your self-esteem so much that you blame yourself and you invite more of the Me Too experiences into your life. And that it's going to be a life of a lot of rejection. So maybe you want to like stay home a little bit longer and trust me about this Montreal turning to Hollywood thing.
But staying at home, being told you're crazy, from the people that I've known that's like their go-to line, usually they've come from a lot of trauma themselves. And that's how they kind of keep people in their place. From the people that I've met, that's like their running dialogue. So would that really be an option? Wouldn't it be better to come somewhere new and get away from that?
There was a safety to being in school. I could drink more responsibly. I did a lot of, well, I was in theater, so we did a lot of drinking. I remember descending this staircase. I had the lead in the play, and they built a very high staircase, and even when I wasn't drunk, it was high. And so I was waiting backstage for my first entrance, and the whole cast backstage, they were holding their breath, wondering if I was going to fall. And I'm like, oh, isn't being on stage scary? And they're like, shh. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to go hit my mark. Okay, I got to go upstairs. Okay, you shh. And like, so I get to the top of the landing, and I'm looking back, and the rest of the cast is up there going, and I'm like, wait, hi. I'm so relaxed, right? Because I'm so drunk. And I hear my cue, I open the door, and I'm absolutely perfect. You see, I live with my mother, and I was a drunk and a drug addict. So I knew how to like act. I was an actress. I could act straight. So I was already pretty much of an alcoholic in Montreal when I was doing all the plays. Well, no, I started on the stage Yiddish theater, when I was very little, like 4 years old. So I wasn't drunk then, and I do remember the experiences and being terrified. So I think that whether I lived in Montreal or whether I lived in Los Angeles, I would still become a raging alcoholic and drug addict.
Which came first, your sobriety or starting the cable access show?
Oh, I started my cable access show because I got sober on December 28th, 1982, 4 p.m., if you're counting. And I counted every minute at that time, because I wanted people to understand what it's like to live without killing yourself. I didn't think I could get sober. I only got sober because my husband said he was going to leave me if I didn't get sober, and I was an agoraphobic, and I lived through him. So if he left, my life was over. What was I going to do? Well, hope for a FedEx guy to come by? You know?
Depends on what he looked like, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but you can't count on that. No one was sending me packages. No, I had lost everybody. Certainly the trust of everybody, including my mother, unfortunately, the Holocaust survivor. I felt so bad. Both my parents being Holocaust survivors, and here I am throwing my life away. But I did the best I could. What was the initial question?
The initial question was, which came first, getting sober or the cable access show?
Oh, right. So when I was, well, nothing could get me sober, you know, on my own. So when he threatened to leave me, as I said, I couldn't have that. So I said, well, you know what? I said this to myself, not to him. I'll go to one AA meeting and I'll talk about it for like a month. Because my mother stretched a 5-year war into a 50-year story. I knew how to do this, okay? So I thought, okay, so I'll get my stuff together. I almost drank on my first, on the way to my first meeting, because I felt I merged better on vodka. Wrong, that's delusional, no. So I thought it was inappropriate, so I didn't have the drink, and I was shaking, like I said, agoraphobic, so just leaving the house to get the mail used to make me shake. And now I'm driving from the beach to West Hollywood, and so I'm like this, but I got there, and that was my first meeting, and I sat down. I've been sober ever since. That was my last drink of alcohol. And I thought, when I got sober, I thought, people need to know about this. So it just so happens I was in a building with a public access studio, so I actually saw one, but didn't think anything of it. But then I read in Variety, foreign actresses wanted, and I answered the ad, and I said, listen, I'm from Canada. It's kind of like, is that really foreign enough? And she said, oh, come on down. So I did a show, and they all said in the studio afterwards, you should have your own public access show. I went, oh, no, what am I going to talk about? Working out, because I'd become an aerobics instructor. And sobriety, and I created Shape Up LA, and it was on for 15 years. And then I turned it into, when I heard about this new thing called YouTube, I'm like, oh, please, that's us on steroids, right? So I said, I know how to do this. So I uploaded in 2006, and almost 400 million views later, like, what? So like I said, I knew one PR company told me, you know, we cannot call you a doctor, a therapist, because all you are is like a sober person with a lot of great advice, and you know, what can we call you? And so we came up with life coach in the 80s, and then it caught on. So in 1984, I think it was, I was on my first TV show doing Shape Up LA, which then they asked me to be on other shows because I wasn't doing Shape Up Nebraska, you know. So I knew where to do my show. And so I got on a lot of other shows, and did movies. Thank goodness. One of the reasons I did this show is because, seriously, I suck at auditions. So one time, my agent called me and said, in the breakdowns, at the time my name was Susan Stadner, but that's a whole other thing. That's before I took back my Jewish name and got married. But they said, the agent called and said, there's a breakdown, in the breakdowns, they're looking for a Susan Stadner type. So he sent me in, I didn't get the job. Because they wanted the Susan Stadner on Shape Up LA, not the one who sucks at auditions. So that's why the show just had to be the audition. I did get a lot of work. Like, they used my show, starring me, finally, in a movie called Ruthless People, starring Danny DeVito and Bette Midler and a lot of other really good stars. And I was the person, they let me write all my own lines. Like I wrote, squeeze your thighs, if you don't, no one else will, or squeeze your butt. Anyway, I wrote all the lines in there. It was about like, ooh, ooh, 4 more, I wrote that. But it was a lot of fun to see my show with a much better set and better lighting. And as a matter of fact, I thanked David Zucker, one of the producers, directors, writers. Brilliant, wonderful, love you, David. I asked him, I told him that I wish I had this gorgeous set for my public access show to shape up LA, and it was all sparkles and colors. And he said, well, if you can haul it away, you can have it. But like, I didn't have a backpack big enough or a crew because it's public access. So, but it was an experience to watch that. And then I did a zombie movie. I played an aerobics star too on a TV show. The zombie is so mesmerized, he lets the lead get away. It was a pivotal role. More of the 4 more kind of things. But so I became known as like the actress you hire who plays an aerobics instructor. As you can see, I just let myself go. Not, right? Because you never know when the next job will come up.